I should have on this or not. I know in my briefing with the manager, he mentioned that I've been quite quiet on that he's noticed I've been quite quiet on this, and I confess that I've been pretty disgusted with this whole process. You know, something that that I've learned, that no matter how much schooling, no matter how many degrees, you just can't teach gut feelings. And from the beginning, you know, I really unfortunately saw that this was going to be a mess. And I think the writing was on the wall on a lot of things, from rushing the RFP process, no financial analysis, which, by the way, I still have not received the financial analysis that has been requested time and time again. And I know in our previous commission meeting, we all talked about movies, and you know, the one that keeps coming up to mind to me is Groundhog Day, which I will confess I did not finish seeing. After the same thing happened 2 or 3 times, I got tired and it just moved on. But once again, I've asked for the financial analysis, and I keep hearing the same thing. We got it, Commissioner. We got it, Commissioner. But it's not being produced. So, you know, and I'll go a step further. I'll go a step further. In commission meetings here, I have definitely discussed, with regards to the RFP process, the commission, we being involved, how much can we be involved. I know that we've mentioned it with regards to us seeing the RFP, because I've given examples when the trolley system occurred. You know, the president of one of the unions came forward with a very good idea, or a way that we could save process with the maintenance, and the bottom line is we couldn't break up the RFP. And now, you know, after speaking about all that, you know, I've come to realize, and to a certain degree, through a way that, you know, it's a little baffling to me, because I really don't pay much attention to them, but through a blog, that there's a different process that the City Commission could have been involved, called a DSP. You know, in all fairness, you know, at the very least, I think the administration has...
So UPD.
Yeah, I don't know the acronym, but the bottom line is, the concept is that there is another way that we could have all been more involved. And the truth of the matter is, even when I've brought it up on several occasions, even with Commissioner Gort saying, listen, yeah, before an RFP goes out, and, you know, and I don't want to put words into his mouth, and I'm sort of paraphrasing, you know, it should come to this commission, and we should at least be able to take a look at it. Not once has the administration come to us and said, hey, there was a different method of doing this. You know, we could have had more involvement. So I'm just, I guess, pretty disgusted with this whole thing. I see one of them is being withdrawn. I don't know what's the intention is behind this or not. The other one's being deferred. I'm hearing that one's going to be disqualified or has been disqualified. The other one may also, and the issue with the taxes, and it's just not a good feeling, and it really does not make the city look good. So.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think any one of us here want to beat a dead horse, but I think we've all, in our respective briefings, yes, I know I have, expressed serious misgivings about the way this process was handled from beginning to end, from the lack of policy input, you know, to the criteria that was created to establish how to grade the RFP, to the members of the selection committee that were actually chosen, to the number of the days that they actually did their due diligence on the RFP before making a selection.
And if I may, to financial analysis, and it seems like with this other process that was never afforded to this commission, but could have been, we could have had a certified public accountant on board. So, and I'm sorry, Commissioner
No,
Suarez,
no, no.
I just want to make sure I point that
No,
out.
I think we're all on the same page. You know, Commissioner Gore, as you mentioned, has talked about this before. I remember discussing this issue as far back as when we selected our auditor, our external auditor. I said I had a disagreement with how the scoring criteria was. I thought I should have been weighted more in favor of price because I thought all the firms were equally qualified, so that we should be more price sensitive. And of course, we were not. And we've harped on it. All of us here at one point or another have harped on that issue. That we should be, particularly on big ones. Obviously, if you're buying pencils and pens, you know, we don't have the time to do that. But on things that are going to change materially the way the city of Miami looks and feels, I think it actually makes sense for the administration too, because it kind of acts as a CYA almost in effect, because you know they've involved us in the process and we've given them direction, and then we, you know, when we're confronted with a decision, we don't second guess everything that's been done. So,
Mr.
anyhow,
Chairman,
Commissioner Gore, yes.
one of the things that I think we all have the same problems. I think this is a big decision has to be made. But one of the things I'd like to request, if we can make it by resolution or however, we have the public facility. It's got to make sure it's on top of all the leases, and we have a new person who's working on it today, quite a bit, that any RFP should come out 6 months before the lease is up. I mean, this lease that we're going to be dealing with today, I got emails going back to about a year and a half requesting, let's do the RFP as soon as possible, not right afterwards.
And I think not only
If we need to pass a resolution, we need to do it.
not only do we have to, I agree with you, not only do we have to start early, but the recommendation has to be given to us early enough also so that we could, you know, not be up against a deadline. And I understand in this particular process, we had this deadline of the election process, but as you mentioned, Commissioner, we could have started earlier. You know, so that's another issue, you know. Commissioner Spence-Jones, do you want to chime in on this?
Yes. Good morning.
Morning.
Again, I'm not going to just continue to beat the dead horse. I think that the administration understands that the commission definitely wants to be more involved in the RFP process, and especially when we're talking about something of this magnitude. But what I do want to at least add to the discussion is I know that one of the reasons why, based upon my briefings and us all sitting up here, that this thing was being rushed was because of the need, and I don't know if Madam City Attorney could chime in on it, based upon what I was briefed on, the need if we were going to make any changes or because of Scotty's existing lease and the tax issue that was centered around the Scotty's related issue, that there was a recommendation that if we were going to take this to referendum, that there had to be a rush placed on this issue regarding the RFP. Because every time this issue came up on the dais, you know, my conversation was always the same. You know, I wanted to make sure that there were key things that were included in the RFP process, and it's always the same thing for me, small businesses, you know, making sure that the local workforce has an opportunity to participate in these major projects. So even though in our last commission, when we discussed this issue, because it came up, I was told by the administration during the actual commission meeting that we would address the issue after the winning, I guess, recipient was selected, then we can add these things as a part of their overall contract and agreement. But I agree with Commissioner Carollo, and we had this conversation as well, Johnny, during our briefings, that, you know, we're here because there are key things that we asked for or requested from the RFP process that just didn't happen. And now we're kind of faced with, you know, what do we do next? My opinion on all of this, and I just want to be clear, and I don't know which one of you can answer it. I know that we're withdrawing the item for now. I'm speaking of 6 and 7 first, because I understand that 4 and 5, you guys are, Henry, you guys are working on that, and that is really kind of, we're probably in the next city commission meeting, we should be fine with that particular item based upon my briefing yesterday. So you have made some headway on that one.
Yes,
correct?
Commissioner, yes.
So, and I just think that even though the items are not being dealt with today, I think that it's extremely important for us at least to have a discussion about it, because we're not going to have time to discuss this before, you know, openly before the next city commission meeting. And I'm assuming that once again, we're going to have to make a decision at the next city commission meeting on this issue to put it on, to have at least this particular one go out to referendum, if that's what we're looking at doing. I just don't want to be in a situation where if the goal is to at least make sure one goes to referendum, okay, and we're rushed again on July 26th to make a decision, I would rather know where we are now, so at least we got 2 weeks to, at least get more information. Commissioner Carollo can get more data, more of the key details that we all may need before we vote on this issue on the 26th. I just don't want this to come back up on the 26th, and there's still certain things that we don't know as a whole. So that is my concern on 4 and 5. On 6 and 7, just in general, I just think, and I told the manager, if this is coming back to us on the next city commission meeting for whatever reason, then, and if there is a push by this commission to have that come up for referendum in this upcoming cycle, then I think we do need to be clear of what the key issues are now. Personally, and I don't know how my other colleagues feel about it, I don't feel good about the process at all, and I told you this in the meeting, Johnny. I don't want to rush something that is so important. As far as I'm concerned, if there is a choice or I have a choice in the matter, I would rather the process just go back out again, and then I would rather chime in before all of this gets started so that at least the key issues or elements that I think are important that should be included in the RFP process are included in the overall issue. In closing, I just want to say this one thing. I mentioned to the administration yesterday, because we keep talking about making sure we have participation in the process, and I know it's difficult to get all 5 of us at one time to get our input on all these RFPs that have to go out from the city's perspective. So I asked the administration to put together some sort of legislation that would be brought in front of this body that basically says even if it's key sunshine meetings that we have to discuss the RFPs that we're preparing all at one time, and even if we can't make it but our staff members can make it, at least we are all in the room at the same time. If it's quarterly, biannually, whatever way you want to do it, the manager feels. I just don't want to stop the progress of what you need to have done in the city because we're holding you up trying to figure out, whether or not certain RFPs work. I think if we put a process in place, every other month we're looking at these are the RFPs that have to come out. All of us are invited to participate. It's a sunshine meeting, at that particular moment, and then we can all add what we want to add to it. And then that way the administration is not slowed down from the process. So I just think that I'm going to ask the administration to put together some sort of process, bring it back in front of the city commission to deal with RFPs so that we can all vote and agree upon that issue so we're not dealing with this every time something goes wrong. So on 6 and 7, my recommendation, honestly, if it didn't start out right, it's not going to end right. I would rather for us to just start all over and put a new process out, a new RFP out.
Commissioner, just to...
Wait, I think the Commissioner wants to jump in on one point.
Yeah, I just want to jump on one point, and I guess that's why I started this conversation because actually it was twofold. One, because I am expressing my disgust with this, and the second part was, okay, where are we going from now on? I see that the manager has withdrawn. Withdrawn means, okay, it's gone. But there's no explanation. Is it coming back again in the next commission meeting? Is it not? And I think that's...
I can answer that.
And that's why, I opened up, and that's, the discussion that I want to have. Because realistically, where are we going with this? And then I want to get into the substance of, could we have used another process?
Okay, I'm going to let the
so
manager
forth.
answer, and then I'm going to go recognize Commissioner Gord. Go ahead.
First, we could have used another process, and all the comments are valid and they're not falling on deaf ears. And we're going to look at a process where we will have sunshine meetings so we can get all the input from all the commissioners and structure our RFPs accordingly. I don't believe that we need to do that for every RFP, but for RFPs that certainly change the landscape of what our city's going to look like. Definitely a flagstone, a Jungle Island at the beginning. This one, although this one is more leases, the other one's the revamping of an entire area. There's a difference, but certainly we can start earlier, number one, and get policy from from the commission. Therefore, the administration is not faced with, should we be running the marina? Should we be privatizing the marina? Is this one of our core functions? Do we want to be in that business? Do we want to accept the liability? And those type of things. The direction from the commission on those types of items will be very welcome. But the only way that we can get it in an efficient manner is to have a sunshine meeting, and either the chief of staff or the commissioner attend, so we can hammer all this out. So I think, one, yes, we need to start earlier. And two, we need to include the commission to get that policy direction, and so we're not debating those things here on the dais, and all that is settled during those sunshine meetings. To your question of withdrawing the item, the reason that I asked permission to withdraw this item is it's going to come back in a different form. So therefore, I wanted to withdraw the item because there's irregularities that have been expressed to me on the recommendation of the administration, from the administration, on the number one proposer. There's new information that's come that we became aware of, and we're going to be coming back with a different item. So I wanted to withdraw that item. We're doing our due diligence. First of all, evaluating the information that we received. If it pans out to be true, doing our due diligence on the next ranked proposer. After we do all that, there's three paths we can take. We can accept the administration's recommendation to go with the number 2 and the number 1 on the chart house, or, like Commissioner Spence-Jones said, we can say, you know what, let's just start all over again. It's been too messy. And we're evaluating that right now. So that's why I wanted to withdraw the item, have a little bit more time to evaluate all the new information that we now know of, and some of it we should have known before. I'm not trying to disguise that. Could the process have been better? Absolutely. The issue of the referendum came out. We rushed it. Luckily, we have license agreements in place with each of the entities out there, and we're making more money than we were in before. We're going to make more money and more revenues and make that area look a lot better in the afterwards. But is it worth taking the time to do it right? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So by the next meeting, we'll have a recommendation to this commission so that we can set the path that we're going to take. Having said that, the process that we use can be improved, but it's the process that we have. Is it legally defensible? I think so. Could have been better? Absolutely. But this is where we are today.
Commissioner Gort?
I'd like to, since we have somebody in public facility now, to make sure RFP come out 6 months before the lease is up. 6 months minimum. Because it takes, you'll get a copy of the cone of silence, which I want to ask you a question about that later. My understanding is, looking at the cone of silence and the list, we have people there, their answer in January. It hasn't come back to us yet. It's been 5 or 6 months now. They're still holding there. I don't know what's happening there and why it's holding that, and I'm talking about the tow trucks. I know there's things that have been, the issues way back. They responded. They haven't been selected. No decision has been made. I'd like to know why. Now, every time we ask the cone of silence, my understanding, I'm not an attorney, cone of silence means that no one can talk to the commissioners or to staff or the proponents. Now, we commissioners cannot ask questions. My understanding is, no, we're in the cone of silence.
It's a legal question, I'm assuming. Okay.
Because the cone of silence has a lot of different
Gotcha.
regulations.
Gotcha.
But generally speaking, it does preclude any kind of communications regarding a particular solicitation until such time as the manager announces the award.
And that's from the individual, and because I've doing all my life. I've been in my business. That's what I've been doing for the last 25 years. Answer an RFP. So people are not allowed to talk to us or anyone in staff unless by person assigned in the RFP. Now, my understanding, we, the elected official, we, the administration, cannot ask procurement a question.
You know, our chief procurement officer deals with the cone of silence on a day-to-day basis. I think he's the most qualified to answer questions about it, and he's right here.
And let me just say one thing before he starts, and this is something that came up in our briefing. One of the further, I guess, concerns that I had is that it doesn't seem like the procurement direction, because of the way we have historically done things, and because I don't think the procurement department is involved in public facilities. I don't know if it may be by code, but, you know, one of the things we talked about was involving the procurement director, who does this every day, more in the procurement process, even if it is a public facility, even if it is real property. So, Mr. Director?
Good morning, Commissioner Kenneth Robertson, Purchasing Director. Regarding the towing services RFP and its status under the cone of silence, that particular solicitation's original submittal date was extended approximately 3 months via the addenda process, whereby proposers were asking questions that either significantly altered the RFP in its original form, so we had to amend the RFP. Subsequently, we pushed out the submittal deadline. There was a significant inspection time frame where several of the...
Let me just stop you there. I don't think he's asking about a specific RFP. I think what he's asking is a general question regarding what communication we could have with the administration during the cone of silence. Could we ask a question? Could we not ask a question? I think that's... Am I
And I have it, I mean, I can refer you to that section. It says that prohibits any communication regarding a particular RFP, RFQ, RFLI, IFB, or any other advertised solicitation between the mayor, city commissioners, or their respective staffs, and any member of the city's professional staff, including but not limited to the city manager and his or her staff. So the answer is communications between the elected officials and their staff and management is prohibited during the time that the cone of silence is in place.
On a verbal
basis. Is that a resolution, or is that a state,
It's an
U.S.?
ordinance. No, it's an ordinance. It's a code provision. It's a code provision.
It doesn't sound very ambiguous.
The elected officials may communicate with procurement in writing and copy the city clerk. That's allowable under the cone of silence. It's verbal communications that are prohibited.
Okay.
Is there a distinction in the ordinance for written versus verbal communications?
Yes.
Keep in mind that what the cone of silence seeks to avoid is the secret backdoor meetings where things happen. So if it's put out there in writing for everyone to see, then I guess that's why it's not.
No, I agree. I think going to the clerk and everybody seeing the questions is very important, because right now you made a statement why it was delayed for 6 months. We should have known. We should have received information.
And you're doing it in public, so there is no... You know, you're allowed to ask questions in public, yeah.
But, I mean, nobody have approached you, nobody have asked me, but when I look at the cone of silence, I look at all the documents I get. I might not bring it up in here in the dais, but I look at them all. When I see something that's been delayed for 6 months, I'd like to know why. So now he explained the reason, that's fine. They should get that in writing. Thank you.
But you're saying that there's a specific code provision which allows for written communications between the elected officials and the staff during the cone of silence?
Correct, as long as you copy the city clerk.
Okay. Just for everyone's...
Mr. Chairman, I just want to ask my colleagues sitting on the dais before these items actually come back on the 26th. I really want to understand the will of this body. Is it the will of this body to push forward so that we are ready for this upcoming referendum for this cycle? Because if we're not, if the urgency is not there, and this is not the will of this commission, then it's really, I think it's important for us to understand that. Is it more important for us to make it happen for the upcoming election, or is it more important for us to make sure that we get it right? Because we can bring it back next commission meeting, but we can resolve it right now. If that sense of urgency is not here, then I would like to at least know from you guys what your feeling is on this issue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I can tell you how I feel. You know, I've been, you know, again, I've made the same, I think, complaints and concerns that everyone here has expressed in terms of how the process was created, our involvement, et cetera. Having said that, the manager is the one that was, in essence, the driving force with this process.
Right.
And I've been hesitant to interfere with his discretion on how he wants to govern the process.
Yes.
What he explained to me prior to this meeting was that he was going to ask for a withdrawal from today's meeting because he needed more time, as he explained, to do due diligence on the process and come to a final decision recommendation. I have no problem giving him the extra 2 weeks to do that. That's me personally.
Yes.
That's my personal.
Right. I guess
feeling.
but Francis, I guess that's really, I understand that I think we're all going to allow him to do that. But I'm asking, not even with them being included, I'm saying the will of us as a body. is the will of this commission, just in general, because of the two issues with the chart house and Scotty's, is it the will of this commission to be prepared for the upcoming election to address these two issues? Or is it the will of this commission to get it right so we don't have this time frame in which we're trying to, this deadline we're trying to meet? So I'm just trying to understand that, because to me, I'm just wondering if the date is driving our decision, or good business deal is just driving our decision.
And I think that could be a very long discussion.
No, but I'm just individually.
No, I hear you.
That's why I'm asking each one of you guys. I would like to hear it and understand it.
Let me tell you how I feel.
Yes.
Personally, I don't mind seeing it in 2 weeks, but I've said it from 2 months before. Have a plan B. Have a plan B, because even if we make a decision, the voters vote against it, you got to have a B plan.
Yeah. No, and I think you're touching on a point that's very, very, very right. It's very correct, which is this process has been exacerbated or made worse by the fact that there was this artificial deadline of July 24th, which, thanks to the manager and his contacts and the relationship that he's built up over his long and distinguished career, was able to get a 2-week extension on to give him a little bit more breathing room to advise this commission. I don't know how any of the other commissioners feel. I can tell you, I have no problem waiting to make a final decision the next 2 weeks and letting him go through his process. That's just me.
Okay. Mark, you haven't said anything.
No,
Please say something.
I haven't, I want to say that I think it's a District 2 issue in large part. I think it's other issues as well. I've learned in the 6 years I've been here to try to do as much of my discussions as I can with the manager in private. I was not enthralled by this process. My suggestions predominantly fell on deaf ears. I learned to live with that. I don't want you guys to think 18 months ago we were like, let's go, let's get started. And I don't want to go too deep into this, because in private, I was pretty upset by this.
Okay.
And I know nothing in City Hall is perfect, and probably it never will be. Politics is it's about personality, it's about issues that drive us, that maybe not always the right result is always reached, or a result is reached which in the eye of the beholder, what's right and what's wrong. But to me, if in 2 weeks something is presented to us, I was given the financial analysis of us running the marina versus us not running the marina. I thought it was a very good financial analysis. I understood the financial analysis. I made myself available for the financial analysis. Philosophically, in the paper today, 2 of our employees are convicted of paying people that aren't even on payroll. That's the news. I'm aware of the fact when we ran a marina out at Virginia Key, we were selling gas on the side. I know the city doesn't do things extremely well other than its core services. So I'm kind of a guy that doesn't want to deal with us not doing anything other than our core services and getting the best possible lease we can. I actually agree with you in one respect, Commissioner Spence-Jones, and that is, let's try to create jobs when jobs can be created. So I wanted to see that element in that as well. I think you're right. I think if we don't take care of our own, who's going to take care of us? From my perspective, I figured, you know what? This has gone on so long. Somebody said to me, what do you expect today? And I said, well, I think a little mini food fight. I didn't know what to expect. And I've really tried to be very reserved up here, because I do find this to be a Grove issue. This is for the Grove. No two ways about it. I'm going to speak to the guy who usually looks to the dollars and cents. This is going to generate income. But I would rather see a quality of life for 40, 50, 60,000 less a year than I would like to see, oh, this is the most revenue we could bring in. With all that said, I'll be candid with you. There's not a plan out there I don't like. Is there a plan I prefer? There is. I'm not going to say what it is, but there is. I don't want the ends to justify the means. I want there to be a fair process. I really do. You know, and so having said that, all three, I only read 3 proposals. I apologize, the number 4. I don't think I got to the number 4.
It withdrew.
Okay, see, glad I didn't read it. I could live with all 3, candidly. I think all 3 are very nice proposals. I'd love to see, I thought there were elements that if we could get from, and combine them, I thought it'd be great. Yeah, I'm going to throw something out there that I was trying to get involved in this, and I apologize as manager, and I'm saying it the best way I can. I think there's an opportunity for a parking garage, which was part of the master plan of Sasaki, that we kept on saying to them, and I'm speaking of Miami Parking Authority and the city, here's a chance to put a parking garage, maybe as part of the RFP, maybe having somebody, because parking is going to be an issue. I mean, if you look at all these plans, these guys are trying to figure out parking. Well, if you put a 3-level or 2-level or whatever level parking garage on the corner of Bayshore Drive and Pan American Drive, and maybe you put a bike shop in there, and I'm just coming up with things off the top of my head. You know, obviously this is the most biking part of the city. You know, you would solve a bunch of problems, but I couldn't get any traction. And the more they would explain it to me, the less I understood it. So, I mean, I understand your frustrations, and I guess I'm even more frustrated because 18 months ago we were like, this is the time. This is when you do this. This is when you create this RFP. This is when you should be going out. This is when you should be doing all these things. And there wasn't a sense of imperative and momentum. To the managers, 18 months ago, were you even the manager? Yeah, you weren't even the manager 18 months ago. Goes to other issues that maybe the chair would like to say, which is stability. But you know, having said that, I'm curious what comes up next commission meeting. I'm curious. I'm prepared to let it. Right. I'm prepared. Yeah, I'm prepared for everything. You know, obviously I'm not being articulate because I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. Well, Karoy, do you have anything? Is the date driving you, or a good deal driving you?
Again, there's just been so many questions, so many unanswered questions. The process, I mean, from the beginning, I don't. I mean, realistically, it's the gut feelings. I saw it from the, and I hate to say it. You know, I knew it was going to end up being a mess. So I really did. First of all, you know, some of the things that I expressed up here, you know, the administration could come back and mention, hey, you know, with regards, you know, let me ask a question to the city attorney. Could this have been a unified development project? Would this be considered a unified development project?
A unified development project is a process that is set forth in the charter, and the commission may, if it wishes to use that process, direct the city manager to do so. And it is a process that involves a pre-qualification. It involves the commission actually approving the RFP, approving the selection committee, approving the certified public accountant. It includes public input as to the contents of the RFP. So it is a very you know, it's a complicated process because it has different levels, but it you know, and it lends itself, I guess, for projects that involve, you know, multifacets, you know, planning, construction, development, leasing, management.
So, in other words, Madam City Attorney, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, by the way. What you're saying is that many of the items that was expressed up here could have been resolved by using this process, and at the same time, not once was this offered to the commission. I'll be the first one to admit, you know, and I'm usually, you know, read up quite a bit and study the items quite a bit. Call it, and I guess I can't say rookie because I've been here more than a year, but, you know, the inexperience. How can a commission direct the manager to go through this process if we're not even sure of it, and no one from the administration has said, Commissioner, with all the issues that you have been addressed, it could have been addressed using this process. Not once did the administration ask us. So there's just so many, there's just so many things going on, and I'm telling you, I'm just disgusted with the whole issue. And by the way, let me be very clear about something.
We all are.
This has nothing to do with the actual proposers and their ideas. I mean, realistically, some of them are actually, quite nice and very good. So this has nothing to do with the proposers, their ideas, their plans. So I just want to make sure I put that on the record. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to say
Yeah, of
something in
course.
closing on this issue.
Finish it up.
Everyone has made their comments and remarks on this issue, and I think we all agree that we're going to allow the manager to come back in the next 2 weeks, but to me, it's obvious the writing is on the wall. That I don't think that even if we even decided to make a vote on this issue, we would all be on the same page. And this is too important for us not to get it right and not do it right. And, Mr. Manager, the ball is definitely in your court, but it just seems as though we're not going to be driven by the date at all. I think that this body is basically saying that we want to be driven by what we know is the best deal for the city. And we want to make sure the process is right and correct. So I don't know what that means for 4 and 5, because even though I know Henry has mentioned that he has at least been able to come to the table with the, I guess, 4 and 5, the 4 and 5 items, the chart house.
Correct.
And it seems like there's no other proposer in this process. But I think that if we're going to do it, it would seem as though you want everything to be done over again.
If the decision, in my opinion,
Yes.
sorry, Henry, in my opinion, if the decision is to go out with a new RFP or a new process, a unified planning process, the fact that we only had one proposer for the chart house, maybe we could restructure and redo it so that we have more competition in that area. And so if we're going to go that path and with the Scotties
Yes. Then we should do
area,
it for 4 and 5.
I would recommend let's do the whole thing.
All right. And I just want to add, yesterday I was, one of your board members from, what is it, the Coconut Grove, is it the waterfront? What do you have?
Waterfront Advisory Board?
Our implementation committee, maybe?
Oh,
No, it's the people that do they had a board meeting here yesterday.
Waterfront Advisory Committee.
Board. Waterfront Advisory Board.
Regarding the overall plan for what needs to happen here. Even there was comments made that some of their suggestions in these meetings that you guys have been doing for how long now?
Waterfront
Forever.
Advisory. Yeah, it's been.
Right, that they were not even included in the RFP process. They didn't even have the opportunity to chime in on key things that they felt needed to be involved in either one of these projects. So we can't appoint people to boards and not even respect them enough to even ask them what should be included in the process. Even if you're not going to use it, you should at least ask.
Yes.
But so I think that there's so many cons in this issue and not enough pros that's just my viewpoint.
Okay, and let me just say a couple things. One is, unfortunately, the manager opened up a little can of worms when he brought in the whole issue of the chart house, because that was yet another aspect of this that I personally wasn't involved in. I don't know if anybody else was, in terms of the decision to bifurcate the 2 RFPs, to have, one for one and one for the other one. And I'm very surprised that only one person, on a property such as that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, if it does become the will of this commission after, I think we're all in agreement that we're going to give you the extra 2 weeks to go follow your process and give you that discretion. The only thing I want to say is, if it is the will of this commission beyond that day to start this process over again, or if it is your recommendation and we do go to the unified development plan, my suggestion, and I don't know if my colleagues agree, is that we start the next day. In other words, it's just like we've talked about with the union negotiations, start early, with all these things, start early, so that there is no time crunch issue. It's a more involved process, as the city attorney stated. You're bringing in a lot more stakeholders, which obviously makes it more time consuming. So it has to start like the next day, so I don't know if anyone
Mr.
else
Chairman,
wants-
one last thing.
and then we need a motion and a second.
I need to have, I'll move it.
Right, okay, we got a motion?
What's the motion?
The motion is for the deferrals and the withdrawals as stated by the manager. You want me to reread them?
No, that's okay. Could we just finish the discussion, though?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem, but we have a motion on the floor, so go ahead and finish the discussion, and we'll see if anybody seconds it.
With regards to the chart house, and again, that was going to be the part two. It was requested to be deferred. Again, you know, what I've heard, and I don't know if it's rumors, and I usually don't go by rumors, but that there was interest in there, but a lot of the companies or restaurateurs want to see what's going to be next door. Right. So I think that's what I heard. It makes perfect sense, by the way. So you know, that I think is the issue. So yeah, I would agree that if we do, you know, an RFP process again for one, that we should do for the other. And by the way, with regards to the Unified Development Project, I really thought that was going to solve a lot of the issues. I mean, realistically, it was.
It's called Unified
Development
Plan.
And by the way,
UDP.
what I'm saying is, I'm not even saying let's do it that way, even though it does sound like that's the way we should go. I'm saying it wasn't even offered to us. And at the very least, the administration should have offered it to us. And I'll say it, I was quite surprised. You know, actually, I did not know of this, and someone actually told me, hey, look at it. I'll be honest, I'll be straightforward. Look at the blog. And I was like, what? And said, yeah, look at the blog and read it. And I'll tell you what it was. It was the Crespo Grant. And I read about this, and I said, it actually was a little embarrassing that I read it from the blog, and the administration did not come to us with this option. So I'll leave it at that. And I think we've had a good discussion. That was my intent, to see exactly where we were going with this, because just a withdrawal and a deferral with no explanation, I thought it needed at least to have some discussion. Thank you.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Carollo. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Clerk, do you want me to reread all the items that were deferred, withdrawn, or you have them all for your records?
No, sir. The record is clear.
Okay. Approval of the minutes of the June 14, 2012 Commission meeting. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Gord. Is there a second?
Second.